Goedendag, good day. How are you lovely human being feeling at this moment? My name is Phylicia Joy Kloes and today we are going to talk about beauty. But first let's look into what beauty actually means. So according to the definition found on merriam-webster.com, beauty is the quality or aggregate of qualities in a person or thing that gives pleasure to the senses or pleasurably exalts the mind or spirit. My mother once told me a story. When I was a young child, she caught me looking at myself in the reflection of the mirror. She asked me what I was doing. I responded with mooie zelf kijken, which is translated to looking at the beautiful self. As a child, you usually don't realize what beauty standards or what standards in general you make your own. When I was growing up, I was watching a lot of Disney films. Most of these films did not portray diversity, and also most of these films were about princesses who in the end found a prince. The feminist in me is kind of screaming because in some of these films consent was not even at play at all, but that's more for another video. Besides spending time watching Disney films, I also spent a lot of time playing with my Barbie dolls. The diversity was also not really found, or not found at all, in the dolls I was playing with. The body types of these Barbie dolls I had were all the same, really slim fit, big boobs, perky butt, pointy toes so you could put them in heels, same skin color, pretty much similar hair colors. And it was only until when I saw my grandmother's Barbie dolls that I realized that throughout time, Barbie dolls adjusted to the image of what women ought to be according to society around that time. When I started to realize the differences between the Barbie dolls that my grandmother had and the Barbie dolls that I got as a kid, I realized that the slim waist was still a thing when I compared the older Barbie dolls to the newer Barbie dolls. However, these images of the female body were not portrayed realistically. I played with these dolls thinking that a slim waist, big boobs, big butt, pointy toes for heels were the standard for Barbie dolls. And I think in a way it also affected my image of what a body should look like. So most of the Barbie dolls that I owned, they were most likely blonde. Some had a little bit of a mixture between brown and blonde, but in the end, pretty much similar hair color, similar skin tone, similar body shape. And the clothing that they had were stylish, you know, because the Barbie dolls were always so stylish and followed trends and all that, but also very one fit for the Barbie dolls. Heels were usually always a thing, shorter skirts, dresses, etc. Thankfully, when I grew up, I was a child for most of my childhood. And I feel very privileged to say that I was able to be a child and to play with Barbie dolls and to watch Disney films, because there are children who are less fortunate and get robbed of their childhood at an earlier age due to life circumstances. However, that was not the case for me. I grew up and played for a long time, and then it was time to go to high school. When I was in high school, I was very insecure about myself. I remember also when I learned that my boobs, for example, were growing, I always felt I wanted to hold on to my childhood. I remember telling my mom and my grandmother one day, I'm gonna cut them off when I get them, because my body was changing. And now I've learned more about how hormones respond to the brain and how the brain creates these hormones, especially during puberty. A child who is going through puberty is still a child, of course, but for that child to learn that in hair chemicals are responding differently, but also the body is now trying to change, that I think was quite hard for me to accept, that I was soon not gonna be a child anymore, but I had female forms. The insecurity at high school continued throughout my high school career. However, when I was around my close group of friends, I felt more comfortable. And just like teenagers do, just like puberty helps you get focused on, is you want to get accepted by your peers. Around that time, I was reading a lot of magazines like Fancy, Cosmo Girl, Cosmo Politan later on. Girls, I didn't really read the Hitkrant or like the other celebrity kind of magazines where they portrayed all the famous people. I didn't care about that too much, but I did really care about reading about what you should do to look your best, what you should do to lose weight, but also what you should create if you want to create a lovely dish. And these magazines were the media I consumed the most. Besides watching TV shows on MTV, or back in the day TMF used to be a program in the Netherlands which also had music, video clips, plus some programs. And on there I also again saw how media portrays women, which resulted into me also desiring a certain body image. Now, I have been lucky to have a digestive tract that is quite quickly to digest the things. And because of that, usually when I ate, things didn't stuck with me. So around this time where I was consuming a lot of media through paper, through magazines, I was consuming a lot of media through video clips on MTV, I was realizing, without realizing it at the time because I wasn't awake enough to realize what my brain was making me think, I for a long time believed that being skinny was a good thing. And it was the time of the low-rise jeans, and it was the time of the flat stomach of Britney Spears and all the other celebrities. In these magazines, people were also wearing more and more makeup, and the makeup part became, for me, something a little obsessive. As you can tell probably right now, or if you cannot tell, that's fine too, I'm not wearing makeup right now, and I did that on purpose because in this video I want to talk about beauty, and I think beauty is defined by anyone who wants to define what beauty is for them, and I think it differs from person to person what beauty is. A video about beauty doesn't mean that I have to wear a ton of makeup just to talk about beauty. Beauty is not altered, beauty can be altered, beauty can be photoshopped, beauty can also not be photoshopped, and the reason why I'm creating this video is because I am noticing myself, I want to create more content where I am being more open, more honest about what beauty is for me, but also how I got to this place. So me sitting in front of a camera without makeup, I don't think the high school version of me would have accepted that. When I started going to school, my friends and I were starting to wear invisible mascara. I think that stuff was actually meant for your eyebrows, but whatever. We put it on our mascara, and then a couple of high school years later, I would not leave the house without mascara. I felt naked, I felt bare when I wasn't wearing mascara because I had been getting used to everyone around me wearing mascara, and that became the standard of the beauty around eyelashes. I am lucky enough to have eyelashes that are lifting up, and that was nice for me to have. I didn't have to use the clippers, which I did use at the time, I don't know why. But I felt so insecure about my own body without anything on it that I didn't want to leave the house without it. And that happened during my puberty. Doesn't surprise me because I was insecure as heck. I followed my peers. I wanted to be accepted by my peers. There was so much going inside that on the outside I just wanted to not be noticed too much, so just blend in, I think. And that also is a little bit reflective, I think, when I look back at my fashion sense. I just wore what everyone else was wearing. I wish that the older version of me was able to tell any younger version of a human being, not even just a human version of me when I was younger, but to any younger person, beauty standards are man-made. People make up the beauty standards. People make up how a female should look. People also make up how a man should look. People also make up how a non-binary person should look, probably. But these rules don't have to be followed. It's all about what you feel comfortable with and what you find beauty in. Although when I was a teenager, I wasn't capable yet of figuring that out for myself because there was so much insecurity going on. There was so much just following trends happening and consuming a lot of media without really thinking about, wait, what do I think of this? At some point, I learned that the body is changing when someone is going through puberty. And around that same time, Victoria's Secret became very big, and I used to watch all these modeling shows, and sometimes I would say stuff like, I want to lose weight, and then my mom would get really pissed off at me. Thankfully, she should have, because basically, when I was a teenager, it became normal. I shouldn't say, because what is normal? Normal is also defined per person in a different way. It became apparent to want to look like the America's Next Top Model models, and it also became really apparent for me to want bigger breasts. And then I purchased a bunch of items just to increase some of the fat and lymph nodes and stuff up to my chest, because naturally, it's just where it is, and I don't have that much fat and lymph nodes down there. That's just how it is, especially when you work out more. You lose your fat. You are just left with some lymph nodes on your chest. However, I was really, really insecure about my breasts around that time. Also about my body, really. I was insecure about a lot of things about my body. And I think media has so much to do with why people feel insecure about themselves, or why people feel insecure about their looks, or why people feel the need to fit in a certain way to make their body look a certain way. Ridiculously enough though, there still are websites out there when, for example, people are getting tips to get a job interview, and on the men's section, it's just saying show up on time, wear some nice clothes, whatever. And for women, they're talking about wearing heels, wearing makeup. Why is there such a difference between that? Because a woman without makeup or a woman without heels doesn't mean that they're less qualified to apply for a job. And that's not being said for a man, or to trim the beard or something, to not have rules like that for men that much. It's ridiculous, and it just shows me as a feminist in 2022 that there is still an unequal treatment between men, women, and, well, there's a lot of inequality happening in the world. I mean, back to the MTV thing. When I was watching MTV, I used to watch Kylie Minogue, Britney Spears, all these celebrities singing, dancing, low-rise jeans, thongs sticking out, shaking their booty. That used to be the thing I watched as a teenage girl. Not that I started to wear thongs above my pants. I don't even think I owned thongs back then. But that is the image that I saw, and that was the image that I believed was desirable, because that was portrayed by media in multiple different ways of how I consumed media back in the day. Young women looking at images online of, you know, dancing stars or photographs in magazines, it creates a standard to meet. And it can also increase insecurity into teenagers who have changing bodies who consume this media. I'm sorry for this trigger warning, but when I was a kid, being skinny was a good thing. And of course, the size of your body says nothing about how healthy you are, about... It says nothing really. How I look says nothing about how I live. If you get to look at what I eat, or how I work out, or how I talk to people around me, how I act socially, that says more about me than this image right here. And you could have an opinion about how my body looks at this moment, or how my face looks at this moment, and based on what you see, you could create a definition of whether or not that's healthy, or whether or not that is the norm. That's on you. However, since I grew up as a teenager, seeing all these women being portrayed such a way, I felt that maybe I needed to also have a flatter tummy. And I'm sorry for the trigger warning, I looked at the pro-ana websites to read about tips on how to avoid eating. That is toxic. That is unhealthy. And that these websites exist show the bigger social fight, really. Thankfully, I wasn't interested enough to keep looking on these websites, and for me it was just out of curiosity, but maybe there could have been a part of me who went too far and went for that. Thankfully I didn't, though. When we were watching America's Next Top Model, I'm saying we as in my friends and I back in the day, we were also seeing a lot of skinnier women, pretty much all similar body types, not diverse at all, but man, holy cow, the modeling industry could improve, although some commercials are finally getting a little better. However, we saw these women with slim waists, and some of them had bigger breasts. Around this time, I feel like Victoria's Secret also was popping up more, and having bigger breasts became the new norm, the new desired look. I actually talked as a teenager. Think about that. I was 14 to 16 years old. I was talking about getting boob jobs. That is ridiculous. That instead, at that age, to talk about how lucky you are, that you are alive, that you have a functioning body, that there's so much going on in your brain, that therefore making decisions is also literally harder to do, or making the right decisions. To then talk about that, I had never done anything to my breasts, and I'm glad I never did, but there were many times as a teenager where I thought about that, and even where I talked about that, and even when I heard someone else did it, that I got a little jealous. I really believe that social media has impacted how many people, not just me, but how many people started to dislike themselves because the media just decided there was a different norm. When I was younger, I was really focused on the looks. The looks of myself, but therefore also the looks of the people around me. And I think I judged probably a lot of people around me when I was younger. So Facebook became a bigger thing. Before that, it was Hives in the Netherlands, where you posted pictures pretty similar to Facebook. Posting pictures onto Facebook, getting the likes on Facebook. There were also websites like Pinterest, and I forget the other website you could go to look out outfits. If you remember the website before Pinterest where people shared all the outfits, please let me know in the comments below, because I just completely forgot the name. On these websites, people also shared outfits, and again, very look focused. I even saved many of the pictures that I cut out of magazines like The Fancy or The Cosmo Girl. During this time, I also became more and more aware of Photoshop because I was not having the greatest skin. And again, by my wording, I am saying that a skin that is flawless is great, but a face with acne is not great. Awesome choice of words, Feet. Awesome choice of words. Basically, I got really good at Photoshop because I just wanted to get all the pimples off my face before I posted pictures. That I got more into Photoshop helped me a little bit with my image online. Not so much the image that I had of myself in the real world, because then I wasn't able to Photoshop at all. But that also made me a little, and I'm saying a little because it was just a little bit, more aware of that Photoshop can also be used in magazines, in pictures you see online, in videos you see online. However, the full awareness of Photoshop in pictures came later on in life when, well, I wasn't a teenager anymore. By the way, I was just saying that when someone liked your photo, that would be something really cool, but at the beginning stages of Facebook, the like button didn't yet exist. And I would get really happy when someone would comment on my looks on Hives or Facebook later on. And then later on came Instagram too. Some more applications showed up like Snapchat, like Instagram, and more dopamine releases happened when someone watched your stuff or liked your stuff, because around that time I think the like button was invented. The image of what beauty means was also seen on my old history of YouTube videos I used to watch. I used to watch a ton of makeup tutorials. Thankfully, I don't follow that much content about that anymore because it's not always about that. It doesn't have to be about looks, and basically just my interests are changing to where I don't click on a beauty video that quickly nowadays, unless I, really want to try something out for a special occasion, but most likely I'll just try it out myself. As I mentioned, I was pretty insecure when I was a teenager, and I grew also quite awkward with my own body. I misunderstood my own body. I was picking at skin many times, trying to make things look a certain way just to fit the beauty norm. And when I grew up, I was also familiar with the word dieting. As I mentioned before, I had looked at websites where they were talking about restricting foods. Not that I started doing that for myself, because man, I liked all the snacks I ate. Who doesn't like food? Food is great. Anywho, I grew up with my mom trying diet after diet after diet after diet, and there was one time when I thought, oh yeah, let me try to eat healthier. Healthier. Again, that's a term. Who decides what healthy is? You decide what healthy is. Whatever works for your body, because everybody is different and every body is different, so it needs different things. My mom tried different diets. There were sometimes moments where I joined her for a day and then quit because I thought, nah, I just want to eat that good stuff when I'm craving it. And the cravings were so bad when I joined her for literally a couple of hours. Now my mom was trying out diets. My friends were also talking about it, and although I don't think they ever truly dieted, it's crazy to think that teenage girls are talking about diets, because again, it's just to fit into that norm of what society created that beauty is. Around this time, I was feeling insecure about myself. I wasn't happy about myself, but when I look back, it makes total sense that I wasn't happy with myself because I kept following people with small waists, big boobs, and around that time where Instagram became a little bigger and bigger and bigger, bigger butts also became the norm. What I didn't realize back then is that you can pose your body a certain way to make different parts of your body stick out more or move further away from the camera, which alters the way your body looks. Tightening certain muscles, squeezing certain muscles out more. I wasn't aware of that much. And I just kept comparing myself with people who were posing in front of a camera, who were maybe also photoshopping their pictures, and I just kept comparing myself to them. Which, how is that healthy to do? It took me many years to learn about the impacts of social media and the impact of the thoughts you have about yourself regarding to the social media accounts you follow. For a while I was focused on everything that's on the outside, and lately, probably the last 5 years, I have finally started to learn about how media impacts society to create standards. And I have learned that the things I consumed had a huge impact on how I thought. After my high school years, I transitioned to a life in Florida where I focused a lot more on food, on nutritionally dense food, on working out. And I remember when I would work out, I would feel happy about myself, and then I would go back onto my social media accounts where I did not unfollow people yet and still get unhappy with my results because I wasn't them yet. You can never become them, but I had things to learn. Thankfully, I started to unfollow people, and I feel like this has just been really recent, about 2 years ago probably. And I've also started to follow more diverse people, not just one fit of a body, not just one kind of culture. I've been introducing myself more to the differences around me, and that has helped me to grow more confidence towards myself, but also to enjoy social media more rather than looking at it and then feel like crap afterwards. After coming back from the US, I started to go to the sauna more with my mom, my grandmother, sometimes with friends. And there I learned that literally everybody is different. And at first that blew my mind because there was this cookie cutter standard that I had believed I saw around me, aka the media, and that wasn't true. Society has been trying to tell us what beauty is, and that beauty is a goal on itself. And it doesn't have to be that way. So for many years, and I finally have been realizing that lately, social media and society has been pushing a certain standard down our throats and have therefore tried to make us respond to that standard, where a lot of women become insecure, undergo procedures to either make themselves look a certain way or to prevent aging or to fit in with the new beauty standard. And sadly, I've realized more and more lately that this image of beauty is often created by men who have certain beliefs of what women ought to be. Beauty is something that you can see, I guess. If someone meets up to your own definition of what beauty is, then I guess you could see it. But beauty is also something that you can feel inside, and the beauty that you can feel because you're aware of the uniqueness of it. That is what I want to be focusing on more. I am grateful for the body that is carrying me, that is carrying my brain, that is carrying the personality that I have because of all the developments inside the brain. I'm also thankful for my body to help me live a healthy life. And again, healthy is, it depends on how you view health, but let's not get into that more right now. I am very grateful for learning about the beauty centers that have existed when I grew up, that still exist to this day, and also for learning to create a little bit more distance between the beauty standards and myself. And I'm not saying that I don't get insecure, because I do. I'm also not saying that I don't get a feeling sometimes when I look at social media, because unfortunately, I still do sometimes. However, I am really grateful that the 27-year-old me is able to see beauty in a different way than the teenage version of me did. And when I look in the mirror, I should still have that childish thought that I had when I was a younger girl and say, "Moje self kijken. Look at my beautiful self. Because look at this! I'm healthy, I'm alive, you know, we're all diverse, we're all beautiful. You are beautiful, I'm beautiful, we're beautiful. We're living in this beautiful world, and the more diversity we see, the more I hope everyone feels to be themselves and to flourish themselves into becoming an even greater version of who that person is." In this video, I have mentioned the word diversity a little bit, but I have not even touched on how skewed the beauty image is and how white many beauty standards have been, or sometimes still are. And that is a big problem. That is something that we need to talk about more. And beauty is diverse, and beauty is within everyone. And more conversations are needed like this. I have made this document on my laptop. That's why I've been looking to the side every once in a while. Many years ago, when I was thinking about this and learning myself about the image of people and how beauty is being viewed by society and by media, that there's probably a better version of this video that can exist. However, for the first video to start a conversation with you about beauty, I think this is just how it is. In this video, I also haven't really talked about the diversity regarding to people's sexes, and that also deserves a big chat about. However, I don't think I know enough about the different sexes yet. Everyone should just be themselves and find their own beauty. So this is what I have for this video. I hope you got inspired a little bit to create a conversation down in the comments below. I would like to see you there, and if you enjoyed this video, that was awesome. I hope to see you in another one. Bye bye!